South Carolina Congressman Trey Gowdy is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee and a member of the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. He's in Greenville tonight. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think I left out ethics. You're on every committee, I guess.
Yes,
thanks for being here. Listen to this soundbite from a hearing.
Did you make the decision not to recommend criminal charges relating to classified information before or after Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI on July the 2nd?
After. If colleagues of ours believe I am lying about when I made this decision, please urge them to contact me privately so we can have a conversation about this. All I can do is tell you again, the decision was made after that because I didn't know what was going to happen in that interview.
Well, now the FBI has come out with these documents that suggest that that decision was made well before that time. Your thoughts on all of this?
Well, Brett, we're going to take him up on his offer. We are going to talk to his present and former colleagues. May the 2nd is when these memos, these heavily redacted memos, appear where they are discussing internally whether or not to make a charging decision. It is a month and a half later before he announces his decision in early July. So you got, that's 2 months. 2 months from May the 2nd until July the 5th. There were 24 witness interviews in that time period. So if you're discussing whether or not to charge someone in early May and you haven't interviewed 24 witnesses, including one named Clinton, John Ratcliffe asked exactly the right question. I'm just not sure that Director Comey gave him an accurate answer.
I interviewed then Attorney General Loretta Lynch. I asked her this about this investigation. Does it concern you, though, that there is this perception that your Justice Department may, in the end, cut Secretary Clinton a break or do her a favor?
With every case, we handle it in the same way, and that's what I'd like to convey to the American people.
Now, Comey said that the tarmac meeting between Loretta Lynch and former President Bill Clinton was what precipitated his action of taking it essentially from DOJ. But that doesn't seem to add up.
No, the chronology does not add up. Again, May the 2nd is when they are discussing their charging decision. The meeting on the tarmac was June 26th, June 27th. So that's a month and a half later. And then a couple of days later, they interview Secretary Clinton. And then 2 days later, they decide that they're not going to charge. And he makes that public pronouncement. So his ostensible reason for taking that decision away from the Department of Justice was that meeting on the tarmac. But yet a month and a half earlier, he is memorializing a decision he's already made. So the chronology does not add up. His answers have been all over the map to both the Intelligence Committee and the clip you just played from Oversight. So we need to talk to him again, but we need to look at these memos before we have that conversation with him.
So you would like to see Comey back testifying on Capitol Hill?
For a number of reasons. He made a lot of decisions in 2016 that I think are worth reviewing. You know, Brett, whenever somebody decides to charge someone, there are lots of layers of scrutiny. When you decide not to charge someone, there aren't that many layers of scrutiny, but there ought to be at least a couple. The media should do it, but also Congress should look at this decision not to charge and whether or not it was made before you interviewed 24 witnesses, including the target of the investigation. Yeah, we need to talk to him again.
Loretta Lynch is up on the Hill Friday, we're told. Will she be asked any of this?
I don't think so. She's appearing before the House Intelligence Committee, and it will be limited to the scope of the Russia investigation, although you raise a good point. There are lots of reasons to talk to Loretta Lynch also, including to either corroborate or contradict Jim Comey's recollection that he talked to her about his decision to appropriate the Clinton server decision onto himself, but not on Friday. That will be restricted to what did Russia do and with whom did they do it.
There's a lot of investigations, obviously the Russia investigation, the Bob Mueller special counsel investigation. You are also looking and have talked to the former ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Power. We reported that she requested, or her office requested, some 260 plus efforts to unmask, in other words, get who was talking and picked up in surveillance. How did she answer that question? Why so many?
Well, I'll tell you broadly, Brett, I think if she were on your show, she would say those requests to unmask may have been attributed to her, but they greatly exceed by an exponential factor the request she actually made. So that's her testimony, and she was pretty emphatic in it. The surveillance community, the intelligence community has assigned this number of requests to her. Her perspective, her testimony is, they may be under my name, but I did not make those requests. So we've got to get to the bottom of that. If there is someone else making requests on behalf of a principal in the intelligence community, we need to know that, because we're getting ready to reauthorize a program that's really important to the country, but also has a masking component to it.
Two more quick questions, and that is, any word back from the White House on your request for information about the use of private emails here?
Yes, sir. On the issue of private email and private travel, we have 3 categories: fully complied, partially complied, and ain't really done a good job yet. The third category, we have written those agencies back and said, okay, you didn't respond the first time, this is number 2, and if you don't do it number 2, the word's going to start with an S and rhyme with subpoena.
Lastly, there are Democrats, and social media is picking it up, that this White House, this president, hasn't really talked about what happened in Niger with these 4 special forces soldiers who were killed. People bringing up your name for the investigation into Benghazi. Your thoughts on that and why we don't know anything?
Well, with respect to Benghazi, we looked at what happened in Libya, 2 years after it happened, and after 4 or 5 other congressional committees had tried to look into it, but without much success. So we're not 2 years down the road in terms of what happened in Niger. I want to know what happened anytime any American citizen, particularly a soldier, loses his or her life on the battlefield. That would be Armed Services Committee. It might be the House Intelligence Committee. We're nowhere near needing a select committee, which is what I was on, but it also hasn't been 2 years, and we didn't have a false video narrative, and no one was emailing their daughter with a different explanation than the one that they were giving the public. So I get that my Democrat friends are obsessed with Benghazi. The report's been out for a while. I would encourage them to read it. It's a little early to start drawing that analogy.
Just bring it up because it came up on a couple of interviews I just listened to before I came on. Mr. Chairman, we appreciate your time. We'll follow up on all of these issues coming up. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Up next.